What's up, friends? It's your boy GP with DeOrganized Media, bringing you another awesome episode of DeOrganized Nightly, where we get your favorite Giga Brain Astronaut Scholars into the same room, have a dope conversation about Bitcoin news, world news, alpha fresh and hot off the presses, you name it, we got it here on DeOrganized. I hope that you have had a very, very blessed hump day. We've got some spicy stuff to dissect tonight, I'm not going to lie. We've got Crypto Dude in the back house, and he's got something to say. He's got something on his mind. So without further ado, got some cool news for the Stacks ecosystem. We've got the SIP31 vote currently taking place where, some very, very base stuff might just happen for the Stacks ecosystem. It proposes that Stacks has an endowment, and, that is going to be rocket fuel for marketing, different incentivization rails for new devs entering the ecosystem, indie teams already within the ecosystem, talk about content creation, incentivization, you name it. It's really covering all of the things that are based on the Stacks roadmap. Let's get into the main news for the evening, and I got some bookmarks for you. So let me bring it up to you. GP, that is not your bookmarks. What are you doing? Never ready. What are you thinking? Okay, so now I'm in my bookmarks. Let's get straight into it. So this base dude right here, gpsc.btc, that is me. You can follow me at gpsc_stx. Tomorrow is our weekly Stacking DAO Pokemon TCG Pocket League tournament going down at 11 a.m. ET. Join the best trainers in the Stacks ecosystem to battle to see who is the very best for prizes in STSDX. Join the Discord and take part in the tournament. And then I made this right here. Check out that Pikachu, like popping up saying like, yo, join the Stacking DAO Discord. I'm the community manager over there. And if you did not know about Stacking DAO, you should learn about it. Definitely should follow Stacking DAO at Stacking DAO. Get in there. And from Longstreet here, Longstreet BTC, big shout out to Sean Longstreet. Voting for Stacks SIP31 is live. It takes less than a minute. And he made this cool little video here showing you how. Here, let me get to the beginning of it.
GM, everybody. I'm going to show you how to vote for SIP31. First, we're going to go to stx.eco, connect your wallet. Click on the SIP31, the 5-year Stacks Growth Emissions SIP. And you'll be presented with a yes and a no button. So the way this works is you'll be sending a Dust Stacks transaction around 1 micro STX to either an address representing a yes vote or a no vote. You'll see the total voting power that you have in the connected account right here. And I do want to point out that you can vote multiple times if you have multiple accounts, 1 vote for each account. I'll be voting yes on SIP31, so here we go. Here is my yes vote. Boom, click approve. And there we go. I'm just going to check the activity to see it confirmed. And there it is already confirmed in the block. That's a yes vote for SIP31.
Very based. Thank you, Longstreet. We love you. Appreciate what you do. Big shout out to the Leather fam. Go download your Leather
everybody.
wallet. Sorry. Go download your Leather wallet at leather.io. Moving on, from Rubes, a very, very base founder, the founder of LeoCoin STX, and you can follow Rubes at REUBS_BTC. Voting for Stacks SIP31 opens today, and we have been doing some cooking for, something for voters. Every wallet that votes will receive a fun Leo and Wells artwork airdrop. There are 5 different variations. First 50 votes will also get a bonus surprise. The cat and dog leading the way for STX. And he made this awesome little infographic here of some dogs, Welshies voting for the dogs, and then the Leo cats voting for the cats, right? So go vote for SIP31, even if it's a no or a yes. It doesn't matter. Go make your voice heard. This is a very pivotal moment for the Stacks ecosystem. Moving on. Let's see, from the main Stacks handle, and you can follow that at Stacks. So many ways to use Stacks, and I would have loved to see some tags in here. Digital identity with BNS/BNS1, BTC-Fi with Bitflow, Zest, Stacking DAO, etc. Reputation/work, that is Zero Authority DAO, Gaming, Skullcoin, Charisma, etc. tokenization with STX City and their bonding curve mechanism, as well as FAC Fund. Do not forget about FAC Fund there. AI BTC Dev, including SAI, Satoshi SI, Satoshi AI there. Don't forget Satoshi AI. Creator Economy, DeOrganized Media. Wow. We got a reference from the main stacks handle there. And BoostX. Wow, based BoostX legend in the house. Crypto Dude has a hot and spicy take tonight. Have something to discuss with the BoostX creator. Definitely follow BoostX at BoostX_app and Crypto Dude at CryptoDude_BTC, etc. The list goes on. There's so much to do within stacks and so much base building going on. Base builders build on Bitcoin via stacks. Moving on, from the Hermetica camp, and you can follow them at HermeticaFi. June custodian attestation is live. GP can't read. USDH reserves remain fully backed and securely held with Copper HQ and Sifu Global. Read the latest attestation right here, custodian attestations right here, showing you exactly how USDH, the first Bitcoin-backed stablecoin in existence, along with being native to the Bitcoin ecosystem, it is a rune. I love my stables being backed by Bitcoin, so go get you some USDH. And go check out their custodian attestations. Probably still butchering that word. That's a new one for GP, so forgive me. From the Zest Protocol camp, and you can follow them at Zest Protocol. BTC lending is wide open. Zest climbed to the number 38 spot in the largest DeFi category by TVL in just 1 year, now aiming for the top 10. Liquidity is flowing into stacks, and with SBTC deposit caps soon lifting, serious capital is on the way. Look at that, at number 68, Zest Protocol there. And I am the CM for Zest Protocol as well. Get into the Zest Protocol Discord. We had our weekly screen share today, where base legends got together, kind of got to dissect SIP31, go through how to vote on SIP31, and as well as looking for some alpha within the ecosystem, and a bunch of different activities that we do on the activity schedule. So jump into the Discord, have some fun with the base community. From Stacking DAO, and you can follow them at Stacking DAO, a very, very base community as well. Want to stack your STX? Just use Stacking DAO. And look at this beautiful infographic here. Just use Stacking DAO. This is super clean. Big shout out to whoever made it. I am also the CM for Stacking DAO, and I also have a base activity schedule for the Stacking DAO Discord, where you can earn STSDX in various activities. Moving on into the main news, bullish. Bitcoin supply on exchanges has dropped to a new all-time low. That is awesome. It has been trending down for some time and now has made a new all-time low. People are pulling their BTC off the exchanges and putting it into cold storage, hot wallets, you name it. They're taking it off of exchanges. So very, very base. Another one for you, bullish. Crypto TVL hits record 365 billion, signaling real adoption and capital inflow. Huge. Crypto TVL, but is that at jeopardy? Is the TVL for crypto at jeopardy with the top 5 companies and protocols by TVL being Tether, Circle, Aave, Lido, and Sky, right? Borrowing and lending, some yield there for you. We'll get into that in a little bit when we bring on the guys. Latest, the proposed Genius Act, or Genius Trap, could force 156 billion stablecoin giant Tether to face audits and end risky practices, posing a major challenge to its U.S. operations. And that is probably our main point for the rest of the week, honestly. Fuck the Genius Act. Anyways, latest, an Ethereum ICO participant just deposited 5,000 ETH. That is a total of 12.18 million to Kraken. Originally bought 100,000 at ETH just for 31K. Wow, they've made a lot of X's. That is crazy. But they are depositing to a centralized exchange. I wonder what they're going to do with that. Breaking. President Trump says he's began interviewing candidates to replace Fed Chair Jerome Powell, with 3 to 4 names under consideration. Look at this guy. He looks concerned, and this guy looks based. I wonder what he's gonna, all that stuff. But it's all a political game. Who cares, right? Like, I don't like to get too political, but I do believe that he also said Jerome says, hey, you know, maybe rate cuts ain't so bad with the trade deals and all that. But we'll get there. Latest, Paradigm will join a 100 million funding round for prediction platform Kalshi, pushing its valuation over 1 billion. I know a very big prediction market coming up very, very soon. Looking to do its go-to-market, coming to a stacks near you. Just in, a well moved 274,788 sold worth 39.9 million from stake.com to Hyperliquid, the largest spot asset deposit ever on the platform. Look at that. Go ahead. I see ya. GameStop raised an additional 450 million, bringing total funding to 2.7 billion to allocate Bitcoin as a reserve asset. Looky there, looky there. Senator Cynthia Loomis says there's enthusiasm at the White House for Congress to pass crypto bills like the Genius Act. Of course there is. They're trying to control all of what we do in crypto and take over our industry. First they fade you, they laugh at you, and then they fight you, right? So we'll get into that, as it's been alluded to a couple times so far. Update. Bitcoin inflows to Binance have dropped to just 5,700 BTC, the lowest since the last bear market, suggesting sellers are gone and strong hands are holding. Everybody and their mom is adopting BTC, from scientific groups, ballerinas, the guy on the back of the dump truck. Everybody's holding Bitcoin now, so go ahead and get yourself some Bitcoin and hodl. That's what everybody is doing, and people are not sending their Bitcoin to centralized exchanges. Just in time, right? U.S. Post 316 billion May deficit, third largest ever, as 12-month budget cap hits 2 trillion despite record tariff revenue. Fiscal pressure is rapidly mounting. Look at that. Look at that. You know, you can opt out of these types of systems with a little thing called Bitcoin and decentralized finance. Bullish. Anthony Pompliano's ProCap buys 1,208 more BTC at 105K 977, boosting holdings to 4,932 BTC as it races towards 1 billion treasury ahead of public listing. Go ahead, AP. I see you. Just in, Fed Chair Jerome Powell says future trade deals may allow the Federal Reserve to cut interest rates. While Trump is already looking at replacing him, it's a little too late. I don't know, man. Maybe they cut rates. The next decision will be on the 29th to 30th, is what you know, a close source has told me. Big shout out to Honey Badger STX. Definitely go follow that account. Huge. You got to do the Trump huge. You know, the meme. White House officials say U.S. government has an accumulation plan to buy Bitcoin. All right. Vivek. From Vivek here, let's see. 8 trillion FHFA officially orders Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac to consider Bitcoin for mortgages. This is massive. Giant. Very, very big. Trevor BTC thinking about building some fun Ponzi games on Stacks. That's cool. I think it would be fun. 91% chance of master qualifying for the S&P in 6 days. That is another thing that we'll be talking about likely. Rosar, yield farming is back on Charisma. Definitely go follow Charisma BTC and get into the know. But all of that is at stake here with the Genius trap. Just in, Bitcoin supply on exchanges has fallen to a new low. All right, so it looks like I've gotten through all of the whatchamacallit, you know, news for today. Let's bring on the guys and kind of discuss some of the things that are going on as well. And big shout out to Target One. I see you. Stop sharing the screen. Got some base legends in the house tonight. We have Crypto Dude. We've got Legend of Stacks Legends, Jack and Switch. We have Rosar, the Charisma founder, in the house as well. What's up, guys? How are we doing tonight? Happy Hump Day. That thing's working real nice, Rosar. Is that thing over there too loud? Can you hear it through my mic?
I don't think so.
I don't hear anything extra. I think we're good.
Excellent. The sound cancellation on this mic is pleasing. So very good. So I wanted to get into this Genius trap or Genius Act, right? Crypto Dude, you brought some things to mind. And I know that you have some notes that you wanted to kind of cover. And, you know, we got Jack in here too, right? And Jack, you are a USD Hermetica ambassador. So, you know, maybe we get into that directly. immediately, expeditiously.
All right.
With haste.
All right. So you want me to kind of go over what I've discovered here after doing some analysis with some AI assistants and whatnot?
I think so, because I've been shilling the Genius Acts like it's been you know, a good thing for our industry for the last like what 2 weeks since you've been grinding on your Boost X, you know, underscore Boost X underscore app, right? So yeah, this is a hard one for me.
Yeah. Well, let's just go over the points here. So basically, I'm gonna touch the top points, and then we can go into the details of each one, I guess. So the first one is basically, you know, why. Well, in general, I oppose the Genius Act, and here's why. So, like, the first one is mandatory KYC for stablecoins. It basically, you know, you can just look at it like an end anonymity with stablecoins. Mass surveillance basically being normalized.
Yeah, it assumes everybody is
to,
like guilty of some sort of thing. Like, hey,
yeah,
guilty until proven innocent. There, you must KYC.
Yeah, it treats private financial use as suspicious by default. Basically, that's kind of the underlying mantra here. So it erodes self-custody, it bans algorithmic and yield-bearing stablecoins, it chills DeFi and open source development, it embeds corporate plus state control, it reinforces the surveillance state, it criminalizes financial privacy, it locks in financial dependency. It's basically the end to stablecoins as cash. So the TLDR here is the Genius Act is not about safety, it's about control. So it takes stablecoins, the closest thing we have to digital cash, and turns them into de facto bank accounts with extra surveillance, basically. And so if you care about privacy and you care about open finance and you care about peer-to-peer coordination and resisting tyranny, then you should oppose the Genius Act on principle. And build like freedom depends on it, because it actually fucking does. So, you know, I can go into the details of each one of these points, but I'll start with the one that's the most kind of probably on Jack's mind, is the banning of algorithmic and yield-bearing stablecoins, because USDH is obviously a yield-bearing stablecoin. So essentially this would cut off tools that enable passive incomes without institutions, kills future alternatives that don't rely on bankers and Wall Street, basically.
Yeah, and I mean, the way they wrote it as a CBDC, a central bank digital currency, without it just being a central bank. But at the end of the day, it all goes back to the central bank, right? Like it's that's why I'm not so excited about it. Like, I understand, like, it's good for number go up, it's a bullish signal, all of these things, but the bill itself is a piece of horseshit. Because, and we talked about this on a space earlier, and I'll reiterate it here, like, they figured out, or they've known for some time, they can't really stop crypto. They can't really stop Bitcoin.
So they're trying to steer it.
What this bill is about trying to exert as much control over it as humanly possible. Yep. And like, I'll take this into a realm that's relatively controversial, but not as much as it used to be. But I just want to go back to the pandemic, where if you were someone who didn't want to get the COVID shot, like, at that time, that was a big deal. Like, it shouldn't have been a big deal. It should have never been a big deal. The whole idea was retarded. You know, like the whole fact that, like, if you don't get a shot, if you don't get vaccinated, I'm going to get sick. Meanwhile, the definition of what a vaccine is was changed. Like, so, like, you had people like me with a healthcare background and who was obviously also in the middle of this, taking care of the sickest people in the hospitals, you know, because I worked in like shit like respiratory ICUs, who didn't want the COVID vaccine.
Yeah, right? Frontlines.
Yeah, and I didn't take the COVID vaccine. But during that time, my employment was threatened. During that time, you had people in Canada who had bank accounts shut down for protesting lockdowns. You had nutcases all over the internet and in politics calling for people to have their kids taken from them if they didn't get vaccinated, and this, that, and the other. Well, that's the problem with this kind of legislation. Let's go 5 years into the future and assume there's no more cash, that there's only stable coins, and the Genius coin as it's written is like, okay, well, guess what? If you don't get the next COVID vaccine, whichever it is, not necessarily a vaccine, whatever that issue is, then now you can't spend money. Now you can't buy shit. Like, that's like really with the crux of the situation. Like, it's too dangerous for freedom to put the ability for people to stop people's ability to transact peer to peer. It's literally the antithesis to Bitcoin. It's the literal opposite, where it's like peer to peer transactions without a third party versus now you have the best surveillance tool in the world, and if we don't like what you're doing, we can just make you not be able to do anything with money, right? So then you can be like, well, at least we have Bitcoin. Awesome. Well, now don't be surprised if they start trying to figure out ways to, like, you know, make it harder to like self-custody and use Bitcoin and things like that. I don't know which way that'll shake out yet, but it's just, it's not a good bill. Like, it's bullish. I'll take the price increase in short term. It's probably not going to matter how I feel about it anyway. All you can do with this information right now is recognize that the governments change, and one day you might be in good graces and one day you might not. And you don't want any corporation or government have the ability to stop you from being able to feed your family. That's awful. So understand that Bitcoin as it is, they cannot stop it. Okay, understand that, like, decentralization and things that are built on decentralization are so important. They are so important. And the more decentralized, the better. Because this technology, wielded incorrectly, is a tyrant's wet dream, right? So understand that. And in terms of, like, you know, what it's going to be for, you know, Hermetica will figure out the legalese part. They got to figure out. But again, so much of this comes back to, well, why should the end user earn yield on these products? There's yield to be had. The banks want that. Why should the end consumer get that?
It's basically it essentially, like, kind of alludes to what I was talking about recently about how they're worried about being rendered obsolete. So now they're basically trying to legislatively force themselves into what is effectively peer-to-peer transactions as a middleman. They're saying basically, if you want to transact and you want to operate as a, you know, financially free individual, you basically got to bend the knee. And so like, another point I'd like to point out here is that it's not just, you know, stable coins getting KYC, you know, and, you know, for yield bearing and whatnot, but this impacts potential use for stable coins at point of sale terminals, because essentially, you know, if there's going to be mandatory KYC, then you know, you're not just going to be able to tap and pay. You're going to have to tap and prove and be approved, basically. So it's like, it's the opposite of financial freedom. So, you know, if kind of like how is the easiest way to say this? Like, financial freedom dies not by the ban, but by selective inclusion, basically. So it's pretty scary, if we're being honest. So we should most definitely, if you care about financial freedom, vocally oppose this, because this is like essentially a CBDC style legislation that is going to try to hijack the existing decentralized financial infrastructure to implement their wet dream, basically.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, it's the control point, right? Like you were talking about, this isn't about regulation. This isn't about moving technology forward. This is about them inserting themselves into the industry in such a way that we have no other choices, and it kind of bans pretty much everything that we're doing here in our ecosystem.
Yeah, it's basically KYC exists to enforce compliance with state control over capital, especially with taxes, and crypto exists to remove dependency on those same centralized structures, especially where taxation becomes coercive and extractive. So essentially, it's like an irreconcilable clash. KYC says you have to be seen to spend, and crypto says you should be free to transact. Those are like diametrically opposed at like the core philosophy. One is basically a permissive, a system based on permission, and the other one is a system based on permissionlessness, provable through, cryptographically verified transactions, right? So like we have basically a major Trojan horse trying to get snuck through again into legislation. I mean, this happens every couple years. They tried to do it with SOPA and PIPA and all sorts of shit back in the day before, to essentially try to snuff out crypto or Bitcoin back then at a programmatic level, or not a programmatic level, but like a protocol level at the ISPs. It didn't pass because it was essentially a giant threat to, freedom of speech. So now this is the same attack, basically, just a different vector. It's coming from under a different, regulatory excuse, legislative excuse. They're always going to use safety as the excuse, but KYC is the biggest threat to people's safety. You shouldn't need to know who your customers are. Money should be basically just a medium of exchange, right? So we shouldn't have to
I should be able to give my homie $20. I should be able to go to the store and buy groceries without having to tell you who the fuck I am.
Yeah, you shouldn't have to go do a background check basically to go buy some groceries. That's just insanity. So that's where this shit will lead to if we're not careful. So like, letting a bunch of fucking boomers that don't know the difference between centralized finance and decentralized finance, and they're now trying to basically regulate decentralized finance as if it's centralized finance. They're just basically going to try and use the threat of force to force compliance or scare away innovation, and then they're going to call it regulatory clarity. I mean, that we need to basically stand up for freedom here, because
and the problem is all of these like heads of the crypto industry, they all have a seat at the table now, and I don't hear anybody making any noise.
Yeah,
because they think that it's not going to apply to them. They don't realize that they're basically, buying the rope to hang themselves with.
Like I don't see the Brian Armstrongs of the world ringing a bell, being like, "Hey." And
he should be, because he just got hacked, and that KYC is basically now putting all his customers at risk. If he was able to do it without KYC, then all those potential social engineering attacks that are now happening against his customers, and all the wrench attacks that are now potentially happening against his customers, those wouldn't be possible because they wouldn't have the personal data to correlate it to the balances. The reason why, like, they want the personal data correlated to the financial balances, so that way they can essentially determine how much they can extract from you. This is the oldest racket in the book. It's fucking taxes. We really need to get back to the ethos of Bitcoin, which is why it was created. It was created as a hedge against criminal behavior that poses and masquerades itself as legislation and legislators and leaders. You shouldn't be forced to associate with somebody that doesn't have your own interests at mind.
And to Crypto Dude's point, like stores, like this is going to be a thing. It's already starting to be a thing, where between facial data recognition in stores and habits, you're going to have adjustable prices for the things you buy in the store. There is no, oh, this can of SpaghettiOs is $1.89. It's, oh, that's Jack. This can of SpaghettiOs is $1.50 for him, right?
And then
when you have everything,
can of SpaghettiOs is a fucking $1,000,
right? When you have everything KYC, it's all social credit scores and all that. It's all the things we don't want. And I mean, no one should be shocked that this is what the bill looks like, because again, to Crypto Dude's point, you've got a bunch of boomers taking orders from, assholes who want to make as much money as power in every transaction they can. But it's not that's why I told you last week, I just can't really get too horny over this bill, because, on one hand, like, yeah, like their numbers are going to go up. But then you're no better than the maxis who are like, oh, good, Sailor's buying another $300 million worth of Bitcoin. Number go up without ever understanding Bitcoin, without ever knowing why they're here in the first place, other than number go up.
Yeah, to kind of reiterate there your point on point of sales. So basically, before the Genius Act, you could pay with stablecoins at a point of sale, totally fine. Private, like cash-like experience, basically before Genius. Offline friendly before Genius. Permissionless merchant setup before Genius. After Genius, pay with stables at point of sale, only with KYC wallets. After Genius, private cash-like experience, nope, fully traceable. On offline friendly, after Genius, nope, requires identity checks. Permissionless merchant setup, nope, must be integrated in improved systems. So
and just like they're doing the thing where you can now use Bitcoin and crypto for mortgages, or they're getting ready for that. Only held on centralized exchanges.
Well, so they passed the Clarity Act yesterday, and I just grokked it, right? So I asked for the pros and cons of the Clarity Act that was passed for the U.S. The pros: regulatory clarity, divides oversight between the CFTC, that's digital commodities, and SEC, investment contracts, streamlining digital asset regulation, promotes innovation, exempts non-custodial DeFi participation from registration, encouraging blockchain development, consumer empowerment, clarifies that digital assets sold via investment contracts aren't securities and allows self-custody, enhancing user control. So these two bills kind of contradict them, like each other, like they're like I guess we need to grok or use some
this
AI.
is the problem. This is the main problem, and I mean, here's the problem with all legislation in the U.S. It's all got fucking rider laws or riders that come along with it. There's anything that's singular or topical. Like it's like, oh, should we save the children from the burning house? Yes, okay, but we're also going to have to surrender 95% of our income forever.
Right.
You're going to like slip those two in there at the same time. You know, it's like, well,
let's get to the cons then. So regulatory gaps. Ambiguity in defining digital commodities versus investment contract assets could lead to disputes or loopholes. A provisional registration for exchanges may strain CFTC/SEC resources, potentially delaying enforcement. Right.
So here's some impact on how the Genius Act might impact STX and the Stacks blockchain. You know, obviously Stacks is not a stable coin. It's not directly regulated here in that sense, but the Genius Act applies specifically to payment style, stable coins, aka one-to-one pegs to the USD, right? And so on-chain liquidity and utility would take a hit, like bridges to stable coins becomes KYC only. Apps like Arcadico and, Hermetica, anything that's basically allowing a USD, ramp, basically, they're going to need to start enforcing KYC. Non-KYC wallets can't interact with Genius compliant stablecoins. Basically, cross-chain swaps involving stable assets will get choked off. Basically, DeFi apps that might work perfectly might, suddenly have no liquidity paths to the stablecoin economies. Basically. Everybody knows that the reason why people convert to stables is because they want to escape to a fiat, right? They're basically trying to take the stables so that way they can get out to the fiat, so that way they can go spend their gains at the store, right? So it's essentially the only reason why stables even exist is because there's lack of point of sale integration with crypto. So basically, this is now a race between this regulation momentum, essentially, and integrating community tokens at point of sale terminals. Because, obviously community tokens are not stable coins, and, basically we could still essentially use them at a terminal without KYC because they're not a stable coin. This is like largely geared towards stable coins, obviously, but I look at it kind of like they're trying to get their foot in the door.
Yeah.
So that way they can start saying, well, we've already controlled stable coins, so now we need to control community coins, and then we need to control NFTs, and then, it's like, it's all fucking a grift to try and absorb more power. So, the stacks-based stablecoin projects would basically require licensing. That's essentially what would wind up happening. And that's going to obviously fuck with a lot of things. and create a lot more burden for startups, and it's going to snuff out innovation. If there's a lot of, you know, it won't kill Stacks obviously, but it's going to most definitely impact a lot of its potential, because stablecoin access, DeFi compatibility, you know, like things like BoostX using USDH. I'd probably have to remove it. Like if basically this was like, you know, passed, then I'd probably have to remove USDH from BoostX, because I'm not going to collect personal information for people. So,
and it's also unnecessary, and it's also predictable. That's the problem. Like, you know, government can't do anything but try to grow itself, but try to obtain more power. Like it's the fatal flaw. And you can't get people to take their heads out their asses long enough to like understand why this isn't a good thing. You can be like, oh, well, healthcare is super expensive. Yeah, there's a million reasons why, and 999,000 of them have to do with government regulations. Like, you know, like that's the issue. And you can't, you know, you can't get people to vote in their own interest, because they'll always put the interest of, oh, well, what am I going to get out of this first? And so now we're sitting in a situation where you have a lot of people who are like, hey, this is going to be good for my bags, and not going to be engaged at the level where you need to be to really like pay it. So it's human nature. You're fighting against human nature, but it's also unnecessary.
It's always incentives at the end of the day. So really the trick here is, how do we align the incentives of these regulators to actually get in the same ethos as Bitcoin, which is pro-freedom? And I think that the trick here is, unfortunately, rendering their racket obsolete, because they have such an entrenched monopoly on fiat that really the only way to kind of make this a non-issue is to, you know, deploy, you know, unstoppable money, you know, that is backed by the security of Bitcoin, that is integrated in point of sales, so that way the economic loop can be from end to end cryptographic, and we don't need that fiat exit anymore, and we don't need those stable coins anymore. We basically, you know, can stay out of that side of the loop, basically.
If I could chime in.
Yeah, and that'll be where crypto goes. Oh, so go ahead, Shift. Look, sorry.
Hey, good evening, guys.
Yeah,
No, I've just been listening in on the conversation, and you know, like this whole ecosystem was created without the government's permission, so they're coming in late in the game. I could see protocols like Allbridge continuing to exist. So let's say you get USDC through KYC, and then you bridge it over Allbridge, and it gets on the Stacks ecosystem, and then now it's like its own token. But it's derived from USDC and can be traded freely on Stacks. I mean, even Hermetica, you have to use a VPN to access their website within the United States right now. So there's plenty of avenues by which, you know, things can still occur. I remember we were at the Bitcoin conference, and we swung by, I think it was Babylon or some booth that had a stable coin. And they're like, oh, yeah, we have a yield-based stable coin, but you only get the yield if you KYC. And you're like, haha, yeah, like you offer a lower yield, and on top of that, you have the KYC for it? No, I'm not interested. So I think people will find a way. The market finds a way. People need to stay like vigilant, though, of course, of the you know, government and over regulation and things like that. But you know, this was created without their permission, and then even when they're trying to regulate, you know, it's a global market. So if the U.S. says no, well, I'm not saying do this, but you could potentially find a means to find a way of getting a yes instead of a no. You know, VPNs exist. There's other means by which a Web3 wallet can be utilized to get the desired outcome.
And then I'll probably just KYC my UBI. It'll already be KYC'd.
Yeah, you know, like it's you know, you just kind of pick and choose. Like you can self-custody tokens, but you have your KYC stuff over here. So it's like, yeah, I'm compliant. I have KYC, but you know, you can have some stuff that's KYC, some stuff that's non-KYC. You know, there's potential avenues that can be explored by which one can be compliant. But yeah, it's going to be interesting because just because something is regulated a certain way doesn't mean it's going to be enforced a certain way. I remember there was some tax law that I wish I could remember what it was exactly, but they were trying to
that's just opening up the gates for selective enforcement, though.
Yeah, exactly. And the government does selective enforcement. Like they do selective enforcement based on what you look like, what sexual parts you have. Like there's selective enforcement.
That's not equal justice.
But that's a utopia. There's never going to be equal justice.
We should strive for a greater rather than just be like, man, fuck them.
Well, honestly, sorry, it is kind of fuck them. Like, you know what I mean? Like
they got the guns and they got the nukes, though.
They do.
So you can't really say fuck them. You just fucking blow you.
you just do the best you can. You know what I mean? Because if you're constantly chasing, you know, equal justice under law, it's going to be a hill that one dies on and with no positive outcome. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I'm not delusional in that sense. Yeah. I get that, but I'm just looking at it like from a pragmatic point of view. We already have the means to do the business, so to speak. Like, why the fuck are we asking for a bunch of boomers that don't even know how to fucking set up an email account to regulate fucking Bitcoin? That makes no goddamn sense to me.
Exactly. So that's why I think the truth is going to be kind of in the middle. So, you know, we have the really scary stuff like, oh, we're not going to be able to operate the way we've been operating. And then we also have the maxi freedom side. You know, the legislation doesn't pass and we just, you know, continue operating in the way we do. I think it's going to be a cocktail in the middle because if you're giving them jurisdiction to enforce, it's going to be very hard to enforce that kind of regulation. It's almost like when they wanted to get everybody to turn in their gold back when they seized everybody's gold back in the day. They only were able to truly seize the gold at institutions because if you try to knock on every single door saying, "Hey, give me your gold," you know, it's gonna the juice isn't gonna be worth the squeeze. And it's the same thing with Web3 wallets. You know,
my concern is that if they absorb enough of the infrastructure to regulate basically transactions via whitelist and blacklist, then blacklisting becomes financially advantageous to them because that's essentially excommunicating those balances out of it's effectively a vicarious burn basically at that point. You're burning the entire account.
So that's on discernment on the blockchain itself. So if the blockchain implements a whitelisting and blacklisting function, the market will figure out, hey, we don't fuck with that chain anymore. Let's go over to this other chain that doesn't do that shit.
This is at the smart contract level, but yeah, I get what you're saying, and this is where the language of this thing needs to be completely heavily scrutinized. Each one of these points that I made earlier has specific sections that is backing up these claims that I'm saying about the problems. So it's not like I'm pulling this out of my fucking tinfoil hat here and being like, oh, fuck, they're out to get us. No, it's like they're literally documenting their intents here and trying to get a bunch of boomers to say yes so that way they can point guns at people, basically.
Right. And it's gonna be interesting going forward. How it's actually implemented. You know, I feel like, you know, those who choose to self-custody is going to be able to put up a barrier by which they probably won't be targeted. They're going to be targeting more lower-hanging fruit, that people keep their stuff on centralized exchanges and decide to transact stable coins through a centralized exchange as opposed to peer-to-peer through a Web3 wallet. Similar to people keeping gold in a bank, that can easily be seized, as opposed to keeping gold in their house or in a storage box or something.
And
the more they try to clamp down on the freedom to transact in the fiat land, the more the fiat land is going to become illiquid and just basically seize. It's going to stall out. There's not going to be any actual use because people will have to go, like, just think about it. Like, all the economies are predicated on growth, right? And if they're basically actively trying to fucking cut off the growth and fucking stop the growth, that's only got one trajectory possible.
Right. Bitcoin has no top because fiat has no bottom. So it's like you watch the monster eat itself, and then your value increases because you're holding the asset that actually goes up from the monster eating itself.
Bingo.
Yeah, I mean, it's Genius is going to be good for this cycle. I think that's what's kind of the altcoins are waiting on. We're waiting for this big altcoin rally. So once Genius goes through, that'll help with that. And then, yeah, you just kind of hope that, you know, the way the law is written, you know, isn't the way it's enforced. You know what I mean?
No offense, but I'd rather take short-term losses and fucking have all the paper hands fucking piss off than, you know, basically sell our fucking own innovation up the river for a fucking short-term gain and fucking money they can literally print out of thin air.
I 100% agree. But, you know, and unfortunately, that may not be the outcome.
The only thing required is point-of-sale terminals with fucking our currency on them, not theirs, basically. So, you know, the moment we can be like, nah, I don't need to exit to fiat no more. I'll just go buy my product, goods, or services with my community coins in my network state, basically.
Right.
It's just a download. You know, it's essentially a matter of time at that point.
And this is a stacked space, but I feel like Lightning is really helping with peer-to-peer anonymous transfer of value for goods and services. Stake and Shake enabled Lightning, and you can transact in Lightning from a non-KYC wallet. So if that's the model, then you know, you have the stable coins over here that, you know, people may or may not decide to participate in. And then you also have this Bitcoin option over here where you can actually transact without anyone knowing what you're buying, because not only is it on Bitcoin, but also on a Lightning layer, which has even more anonymity.
Yeah, I mean, go ahead, Jack.
I was going to say, did y'all see what they were talking about? How you're going to be able to start using Bitcoin and crypto as assets to get mortgages?
Yeah, dude. Like it's incredibly bullish. I honestly listed some of my stuff when I bought my house in 2022. So it was kind of like subjective to company that was giving you a mortgage, whether or not they would qualify you based on counting digital assets or not. But to see that actually as like a regulatory framework, that's huge, because you may have a guy who's like, you know, fixed income, maybe it's non-taxable, and then they're like, yeah, you can't qualify for a mortgage. But if they're like, well, I'm fixed income, non-taxable, plus I have X amount of Bitcoin, then they're like, oh, you are super qualified. Because that's the same thing as saying like, yeah, I have this Roth IRA, or I have this 401k, or I have this real estate. It's just an asset that you can put on your application, so you can get a better mortgage rate, or even just get approved in the first place.
Yeah, it's going to be, that's a good deal.
Absolutely.
They still want you to hold it on a centralized exchange, though. They want it KYC'd. It's just they want to be the ones that dictate who owns the assets, even though the blockchain does a way fucking better job of fucking actually keeping an account. Right. It's fucking peak irony. They're basically trying to regulate against their competition and claiming that they're it's fucking funny. But I think ultimately, like, one of the beautiful things that we have going for us right now is that if you look around and you look at the state of this country, and you see like, okay, well, Texas is going to have their strategic Bitcoin reserve. Some states are not. You know, you have like in New York City, they're probably going to elect the communists to be the mayor.
I hope to God they don't.
Everything's going to change. Like the whole dynamics of this country is about to change dramatically, and then that's going to happen in country to country levels too. And at the end of the day, you know, the only thing you can own truly is your education and your Bitcoin. You can't take that from you. And if it's ever time to walk, you just go to one of those places that's just better. And that it could be Texas, it could be another state, it could be like the centralization, this hyper centralization that we live under is dying under its own weight already. So anything that just helps expedite its death is a good thing. And Bitcoin is actually helping to do that.
Yeah, can somebody explain the logic of how Texas is passing a strategic Bitcoin reserve, but they're also now criminalizing weed again?
So it's just Greg Abbott's politics. So he likes sovereignty, just the nature of Texas. You know, especially under the prior administration, they had to work with the Supreme Court in order to be able to enforce their own borders since the feds weren't doing it. But they're still like that old school, like, you know, reefer madness, weed is bad type of thing. So eventually people will come around to that because, you know, THC is fantastic for PTSD treatment and is a natural remedy that can get people off a lot of prescriptions. But not a lot of people have done their homework on the conservative side, and that's okay. They'll eventually come around. But, you know, along with that sovereignty argument, that's why they passed their strategic Bitcoin reserve. And then they're also going to deploy $10 million at some point, which if it's at 100K, that's 100 Bitcoin, which may not be a whole lot of money, but it's in principle, that's huge. Because that'll be the first state that actually buys Bitcoin instead of just establishing a reserve.
I found it kind of funny that they're willing to spend the taxpayers' money for a strategic Bitcoin reserve for the state, aka reinforcing the state sovereignty, but also willing to pass legislation that says nope, you can't smoke weed, which is aka undermining individual sovereignty. Pretty consistent with status.
Right, but like let's say what state have you ever said that, like, you know, they've been in a surplus, like, you know, by stacking Bitcoin, that you're actually deploying the dollars in a responsible way. I do see the dichotomy with the weed part of it and everything, but
it does. Like, it's smart of them. Don't get me wrong. It's smarter than to stack Bitcoin, but it's just like peak irony to me. It's like,
yeah, 100%.
I'm not from Texas. I only get news here and there about Texas, and then you know, Joe Rogan's in Texas. He does this fucking JRE from Texas, and he had Elon Musk on there fucking taking big old fucking rips of weed, and now that have been fucking, if this shit was already passed, they would have been fucking basically broadcasting criminal behavior, and then would they have got some people knocking on their door? I doubt it. Probably not.
Give them another 10 years, and I think they'll come around. For some reason, weed is still a taboo. I mean, it's understandable because people just haven't thought about it. Like, people think pharma is good and weed is bad, when it's actually the inverse. It's weed is good and pharma is bad. Like, you can put something that grows in the ground into your body instead of chemicals in a laboratory.
Yeah, you can't OD on weed.
Nope.
Yeah, I get a good nap in, and you know, have me a good old meal, right? You know, and
do some research.
Yeah, dude. Yeah, I actually do. I get into like you know, I put my tinfoil hat on whenever, you know, I smoke. So it's like, you know,
be real. That's the real reason. Come on.
What about those black holes, right? You know, so.
Why are there pyramids in Mexico and Egypt when they couldn't talk to each other?
Like the meme, bro. It's like, right? You know, so it's one of those things, man. So like, I get me a good nap, I do some research, right, and then you know, depending on how much I smoke, it might be black holes or pyramids wherever they are in the world, because they're all over this motherfucker. Like,
yeah, I mean, it's fascinating, and you know, it's like, okay, so what are the incentives of you know, keeping weed out of, you know, the mainstream? Well, it undermines pharma's power. Well, how long has pharma been in power? Ever since Rockefeller told people to stop taking natural supplements, because the natural supplements is what kept people healthy back in the day. But you can't make tons of money off of it because it grows in the ground.
I'm glad you
people.
bring up a valid point. Don't let me forget.
Yeah, so it's like, it's THC and weed is one of those things that undermines pharma's power. And it turns out the majority of the time, I mean, there are some really good life-saving prescriptions out there, don't get me wrong, but the majority of them probably has a substitute that exists in nature, and you don't need the prescription. Go ahead, Jack.
Anything you put in your body has a side effect. Your body likes homeostasis. And so a lot of these drugs are just downright awful. But okay, I'm going to do a public service announcement for all the viewers. Are you ready? Because he brought up like when Rockefeller kind of, took over med schools, which is true. You'll hear people say, well, yeah, that was like in the 1800s when people only lived to be 40. No. When you look in history and you see an average life expectancy of a young age, it wasn't because people were dropping dead at 40. It was because infant mortality was so high, and you're reading the average. So if you only live for 5 days, well, obviously that's going to bring the average down, right? No, people live to be old ages all throughout human history. It was basically, if you were healthy enough to get through childhood, you could expect to live in old age. So all of your grandparents and stuff, they did not drop dead when they were 35, 40 years old. No. That's just okay. So that end of rant, because I see that all the time.
You mean statistical averages can be misapplied?
Right.
Why do I feel like they only lived to their 30s for the longest time, Jack? Thanks for breaking that down, dude.
This guy's out here thinking, damn, cavemen only fucking lived to be 12.
Yeah, bro.
Well,
Jeez.
that's how you make a narrative strong, is that you force feed skewed information to justify your narrative. And then when you investigate the evidence, then the narrative falls apart.
I also have another one. It's going to blow minds. Do you know what would cut the infant mortality down to like good levels? Like
polio vax?
The doctors washing their hands. No, good sanitation. It was good sanitation. Back in the day, you might have a doctor, he's sawing off a gangrenous leg in one room, and then you get a woman in labor, and he's going to stick those same hands, to go get that baby, and then all of a sudden, baby and mama die. Like,
just washing the hands.
Yeah, a doctor discovered. Wait, what if we just like wash our hands in between dealing with patients, basically, and that's what like took and made the birth rate like way better. Like made
back then they were going to one room where they gave the guy the colonoscopy, and then go to the other room where they got to stick the thermometer in the mouth, right?
Exactly.
Just trade one hole for the other.
That's
Brody, dude.
But yeah, like people always, if you got past childhood back in the day, you probably lived to be pretty old, and you didn't have diabetes at young ages. You didn't have the rate of cancer we have now. You didn't have the heart disease we have now. Like, we have a lot of diseases and illnesses that are unique to us, and like
that's no accident either.
From our freaking habits, basically.
From the food.
Yeah,
food, environment. The food drives you to pharma, and then pharma drives you to the grave.
Yeah, I mean,
and then some fat cat collected a fucking massive paycheck and was completely immune from being able to be sued because he paid off enough politicians to make sure that he couldn't be sued.
Yep.
Wait, you mean to tell me that Big Pharma owns the food companies?
They actually do, yeah.
And the politicians.
And the politicians? Jeez. Wow, never would have. Damn, that's bad. That's real bad. So
yeah, I'm most definitely concerned about how the things during COVID transpired, with the whole like take the jab or you're getting financially shut the fuck off.
Yeah.
If we were all already in a stable coin environment and everybody was using stable coins at the point of sales, they would just be able to be like, man, you're shut up and you can't go buy your groceries. That's way more scary because like, it's dictatorial as fuck at that point.
And the Canadians had it worse with those truckers. Right. A lot of those guys got orange pilled because the only way they could transact and take donations was Bitcoin, because the Canadian government was seizing all the other things because they didn't like them.
Yeah, the banks just straight froze their money because they
Yep.
wouldn't take a freaking medical procedure that was essentially, you know, not thoroughly tested, and also massively financially incentivized to have mandated, and also had no, like, I mean, think about they're like, hey, you have to take this, and if shit goes sideways, you have no recourse.
Right,
Yes.
you're out of luck. Yeah, and like meanwhile, you've got a company in California. Can't remember the name of the lab, but they've been doing clinical trials on a cure for cancer for like 10 years, and they're still not approved to go to market. And like the clinical trials are phenomenal, like going very well. But the COVID vaccine was approved like that, right? And like
Yeah, there's a lot of money.
There's
Money to be made in treatment. There's not money to be made in cures.
Yep.
All right. So like me personally, and especially since I had a first eyewitness view of like the pandemic that a lot of people didn't have, between those two things, like it takes like 15 years to get a drug to market, and you know, they still don't necessarily release a safe product. So they're definitely not gonna probably have a safe product here. Between knowing that you really can't like vaccinate against a coronavirus in general, like you get coronaviruses all the time. When you get the cold, that's a coronavirus. That's the family of virus it is, and they mutate. They mutate very easily. That's why there's not a cure for the common cold, right? And because they can mutate.
There's no such thing as a common cold.
Right. So like you can't. It's very hard to vaccinate against anyway. Impossible up to this point, and we know that post-COVID. But I knew that during COVID. And
dude, my nephew was a COVID baby, so my sister is like on Pinoid, like everybody's getting tested, dude, and they poked my brain with that fucking test, dude. And then the second time that I thought I got sick and like I needed a COVID test, I was so mad when they swabbed the outside of my nose and like, oh yeah, we found out we don't have to poke your brain. Like, dude, what? That shit was.
And it makes you question the device, because your body, your biology, you have these natural barriers in different portions of your nasal cavities and things like that. So it's like, what damage was that test actually causing in your nasal cavity? Like, were they breaking down a wall that doesn't regenerate? Like, what was the true
or more
damage
like
there?
More like what chip got implanted up there in my nasal
Yeah, that's
cavity.
the extreme of the rabbit hole. But yeah, like I'm at least entertaining there was damage. You know what I mean?
So you're telling me, Shiflet, that you've seen the patents for the cotton swab micro injections, basically?
Yeah, like I read those things, but like I just from experience, I know the truth is typically in the middle. Like there's one extreme, like, yeah, there's nothing going on, and then the other extreme that they're planning a microchip. So I'm like, okay, well, in the middle, they're probably just causing damage to your nasal cavity that makes you more susceptible to getting sick from other things because you're not protected through that little barrier that used to be there.
Well, here's the.
Okay, so does anybody else have a good point to make before Big Pharma takes this podcast down?
Bitcoin.
The most uncomfortable truth about COVID was that at first you had a lot of people with the flu, and like, because this is another thing and this is in the statistics, by the way. Like when the pandemic first started, the recorded amount of cases in the flu for that flu season went from like, I don't know, 30 million a year down to about 1,100. And it's because they stopped testing for the flu, right? And then if you take a PCR test and you spend it enough, you can pretty much get it to say what you want it to say. So at first you had a lot of people like, and you would see them, they were in the hospital for COVID, and you're thinking to yourself as a healthcare professional who's been in the game a long time, like, wow, this presents a lot like the flu. It's because they had the flu. They didn't actually have COVID. Right. And then the other side of that was you might have someone come in the hospital and they've got all of these diseases that they've had for years and they're at the end stages and they die. and they pop they pop positive for COVID, and it's like, oh, that was a COVID death. No, it really wasn't, right? It was their kidneys killed them. They've been on dialysis for 2 years, like, you know, or their heart killed them because they had severe congestive heart failure, or, you know, so like a lot of that shit was scams. There was real COVID. I had real COVID. I knew when I had it, it wasn't a natural illness. Like, it didn't affect you like and it didn't affect patients like a natural illness. Like, it's a very strange way to get sick.
Yes, some people came out of COVID with anosmia, dude. They couldn't taste food and they couldn't smell shit. Like, fucking crazy.
That's because it was attacking your central nervous system. It was attacking your brain. Like, your sense of taste and smell, that's all in your brain. So, like, you had COVID giving people brain damage and more. Like, it was just not like some respiratory disease. Like, this shit was obviously bioengineered, right? And again, like, those are the kind of things that people elected Trump to deal with, you know, like trying to fix some of this regulatory overreach, trying to right some wrongs, things like that. That's what you really want to see. But
the problem there is Trump was on watch when the first freaking lockdowns went down. He's the one that was like, I'm the freaking, he's the one that pushed for the fucking mandatory jobs. He said basically they were safe. So,
I think that people like in his position, I think they rely so much on the people around them to help make their decisions, and it creates a lot of blind spots. And you can't be an expert about everything. And I think that like a lot of things can be explained away by that, even if you're dealing with, you know, someone who you think's well-meaning. And then on the other side of that is how many well-meaning people actually make it to, you know, that high of an office in the first place. But
yeah, you can easily attribute some stuff that people might think it's malevolent into just straight up ignorance and, you know, potentially just, you know, bad information acted upon. That's for sure. But I think the lack of any type of self-reflection reveals a lot. Because, you know, people that fuck up that are honest, they'll be like, oh shit, I fucked up, my bad. And I'm going to own that. And I'm going to fucking take responsibility for my behavior. But, you know, people that fuck up and don't take responsibility for their behavior, instead blame other people or try to obfuscate or minimize or justify or rationalize, especially when we're talking fucking shit tons of people's lives were affected here. It's not like this was just like some, you know, side show event that happened. This is like these fuckers were trying to basically say, hey, take this medical procedure without your consent. A total violation of body autonomy, trying to treat people as if they are cattle, straight up. So, you know,
how scary is this shit? Google's Alpha Genome, accessible via API, cracks the junk DNA code, outperforms top rivals like Q-Test, and puts advanced genomics tools within reach of labs around the world. Woo!
People are going to be having some babies soon.
Yeah, dude.
Is that Google's official announcement of being what do you call it? Eugenicist?
What is eugenicist, good sir? I'm not educated.
You probably just need to do a little history lesson in World War II to know what eugenicists are.
Oh god. Oh yeah, another rabbit hole. I need to smoke some weed is what it sounds like.
No, eugenicists are basically
it's like people who believe that, like, well,
they think they can control the evolutionary path of humans by essentially controlling reproduction of humans, genetic manipulation, you know, essentially kind of like what I think there was like some sort of
you remember the guy
Nazi's dream?
Yeah, the guy, some dude with a little mustache that used to scream into microphones and
Kanye West made a song about him.
Yeah, get all hopped up on meth, you know, that guy.
Oh, that guy, yeah.
The whole master race guy. Yeah.
That guy.
Yeah,
the one you know, Elon copied him in some sort of way, right? Like did the thing that people said. He did the thing, right?
Yeah, the eugenicist agenda is pretty scary. I think a lot of it is potentially like people are just getting taken along for the ride based on good intentions. They're like, oh, whoa, if we have a little more insight into genetics, maybe we can, you know, cure some of these diseases. Yeah, that's noble. I get that. That's great. But everybody needs to realize that like information is a double-edged sword. Like the more you unlock information, the more you unlock power, the more it can be weaponized. So you have to be very careful on essentially building anything that's innovative.
Yeah, no, that's very true. That's very true. In other words, when you go too deep down that rabbit hole, you realize they can make custom-made viruses just to kill you.
Yeah, and it makes you look back at 2020.
Right.
Yeah, like, oh, I wonder how much of that was all just a targeted vector towards a specific, you know, genetic group of people.
Right.
Damn. Things that make you go, right?
Yeah, things that make you put that tinfoil hat back on and freaking turn Alex Jones back on.
Let's go. We going hard tonight, guys. We ain't sleeping. Let's go. Fellas, I think that everything that we talked about tonight is very, very, very relevant. We did not even talk about like 31. We talked about like real world shit, right? So I'm thankful that I'm surrounded by like based individuals, free thinkers, and you know, people that can educate me about some stuff, because like here I am talking about like, you know, short term, like Genius Bill, right? All the stuff, and then we dissected it. And then we got into like, you know, we went on we did the whole loop. Yeah, we did the whole circuit tonight, guys. So I'm very fortunate to be surrounded by you guys, and I'm constantly learning. Is there any other conspiracy theories that we want to, you know, hack into a little bit? You know,
I'd love to talk about MSTR.
Okay, yeah, let's hear.
I would like to clarify this Genius Act is not a conspiracy. It's literally documented in legislation. This is their intentions. This is we all like to kind of joke about it to, you know, ease the tension, but it's most definitely a serious thing. It's not a conspiracy. People should most definitely, if you guys kind of believe in this type of thing anyways, go contact your representative and say, you know, fuck this Genius Act. These guys are trying to stop us with our freedom. We like freedom. We don't like control. Thank you.
I type shit, bro. Type shit. I agree with you. Definitely not a theory. Proven. It's in the you know, if you read into it, and you can even go ask AI about it and tell you. Ask Grok, ask, you know, any AI about it to tell you the pros and cons. It'll tell you everything that you need to know. So I'm glad that you brought this up with me, and definitely not a conspiracy theory. Definitely not trying to discount any of the work.
No, I know.
Yeah, for sure. But yeah, dude, I'm glad that we actually got into that.
Well, I want to hear about MSTR. Wait,
me too, because I got a little for that too.
So, oh, what was that?
What?
Wife opened something that sounded like, I don't know.
I was gonna say, is Pharma knocking on one of our doors already? Damn.
Yeah. Oh, that was quick.
You're talking about stuff. So MSTR. So FASB accounting standards went through a little while ago, where Bitcoin is no longer just marked down on a balance sheet when it goes down in price. You can now mark it up. So those FASB accounting standards got us to where we are now, where MSTR is about to have its Q2 earnings. What does that mean? So after Q2 earnings, as long as Bitcoin is above the price of 95,000, MSTR could qualify to enter the S&P 500. If they enter the S&P 500, that means everyone that holds or buys or has, you know, the S&P 500 in their 401ks, that's going to be passive flows going into MSTR, which means passive flows going into Bitcoin. So what happens when they first get on there? Well, if they have a $100 billion market cap, which they do right now, they're going to be roughly number 83 in the S&P 500. Well, if we want to have some fun, you know, Bitcoin goes to $1 million. Well, that means their market cap will likely go to about $1 trillion. That would put them as the number 7 biggest company. And then the top company on the S&P 500, the last time I checked, has a 2.7 some odd market cap. So, you know, there's actually like a pathway to becoming the top company on the S&P 500. So the way passive flows enter the companies that are on the index, it depends on how much of your market cap as a percentage of the total market cap across all 500 companies. So with a $100 billion market cap, that means MSTR will be getting like 0.28% of the flows that go into the index. And then when they hit 1 trillion, that'll bump them up to like 2% of the total flows. So there's tons and tons of flows going into the S&P index just because of all the different retirement accounts and people storing value in the S&P index when they don't want to like buy individual stocks. So MSTR MicroStrategy is about to have a ton of access to incoming capital that people are just passively investing. And they're going to be able to utilize that to add to their Bitcoin stack. And then that means also everyone who buys the S&P is passively investing in Bitcoin without even knowing it.
Yeah. And pretty soon, maybe in a decade, 300 out of the 500 is all going to be Bitcoin treasury companies. Watch.
Yeah. And then that's like a speculative attack on 401ks, because then that means you just make a 100% allocation to the S&P 500. And basically your volatility is based off of the volatility of Bitcoin, because the majority of the S&P 500 is Bitcoin treasury companies at that point in time.
Yeah, that's wild, man. Absolutely wild.
Yeah, we're going to get into some really crazy times and value loops here in our Stacks ecosystem. Looks like Michael Saylor has a grandmaster plan as well within the S&P. I love this alpha too. Like Schiff, you're ahead of the game. You often like bring these things to my DM, and I think it's a good point to bring up. I don't think it's something that I would want to miss. I don't think anything gets past you, bro.
I appreciate that, brother. No, like I want to, like as soon as I see something, I want to share it, because the worst thing you can do with information is keep it close to your chest. It's nice to just put it out there and make sure other people see it, because this is all about a ride to our bright future together, not the fiat ecosystem has a lot of people who step on each other in order to get where they want to go. In this ecosystem, it's all about bringing everybody you care about with you, and we all get there together.
And one of the benefits of belonging to a community that's cannot be slept on.
Yeah, belonging to a community, somebody might just remind you that, like, hey, what you're talking about, you need to look a little bit deeper than surface level and figure out the meat and potatoes of the situation, right? And that's what's valuable in community, is that we have each other's backs, and we're making sure that we're pushing the right things to people to learn about, right? And I think that we did a really good job tonight educating people about the genius trap, what happened in COVID, etc. Go look into the pyramids. I'm not going to twist your arm, but yeah, I think that it was a damn good episode, and we need to continue cranking down on these efforts to let people know what's going on. And we are rounding around that last moment, but we do have Ace in the house as well. Crypto dude, go ahead, brother.
I was going to say, I want to quote something. This is from Satoshi Nakamoto on February 11th, 2009 in the Bitcoin forums. Basically, his initial statement: I've developed a new open source P2P eCash system called Bitcoin. It's completely decentralized with no central server or trusted parties, because everything is based on crypto proof instead of trust. Keyword there, instead of trust. Keywords there. So Bitcoin's ethos is cryptographic proofs is our bedrock of trust, not centralized dictators that say you get to play and you don't.
Preach.
We're all basically have equal access.
You're not preaching to the choir, I can tell you that much. I'm glad that you fucking can preach. You preach it really fucking well, good sir. You know your shit. I'm glad I got somebody in my corner that can educate me real quick. I remember one time, Crypto Dude was in my DMs, right? And he was like, "Yo, Genius felt bad, bro, and here's why." And then that's why we brought it on the show. So, I'm glad, dude. I'm glad I got a solid corner. Like, I got a real solid corner and some heavy hitters that want to let you know, guys. Sometimes we need to get vocal about these things and start letting people know. So I think
call your senator so they can completely not know what the fuck you're talking about.
Like, you did what? I voted how on what? They won't even realize what the fuck they did.
I voted yes for that thing. What are you talking about?
They told me I was going to be a genius if I voted yes on this. That's why it's called Genius Act.
It's called the Gene. Yes, exactly. You hit the nail on the head. That's exactly how they voted to these fuckers.
It's like the
Just like the Inflation Reduction Act.
Bro, you want to be
like
so
every
smart.
other act in our modern life, like I've since the beginning of my as far back as I can remember, like read it in the opposite, and then you're gonna get a lot closer to truth.
Like, bro, like, you want to be so smart? You want to be a genius? You want to be very, very genius? Sign here. Like,
Right. They ought to pass the Never Ever Get Laid Act so everyone can just be happy
all the time.
Yeah.
the fuck, man, dude?
You know what's the Kramer effect? These fuckers have like the ultimate like
Inverse Kramer.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh shit, fellas. Ace, I saw you chimed in and came in to kick it with us for a few minutes for the last few moments of the night. How are we doing tonight, bro?
Yeah, good evening, guys. I just got back. My daughter had a doubleheader basketball games, so I just hope to try to catch up to it. I haven't checked in for 4 hours or so. I'm kind of out of it. Heard you talking about the Genius Act. Is there any other developments this evening in any of it?
Yeah, it's bad.
It's a big trap.
Well, we know that.
It's like a no-go, man. Everything that we're trying to accomplish here is like illegal. Like whenever you watch Pineapple Express, and the dude,
Things like yield-bearing stablecoins would require KYC. So USDH, they're basically trying to attack USDH and say, "Hey, jump through the KYC hoop to have customers." Lots of bad things.
They're infringing on our freedom to transact.
Big time.
So for everybody, even decentralized, people with their own wallets, that USDH would be required for anyone to use USDH?
Well, in essence, they're trying to basically say if it's a stable coin, it's akin to USD. If it's akin to USD, it requires KYC because we have monopolistic control over USD, basically. So
USD valuation isn't going to get stronger like they're predicting? You're talking about people are going to start using rubles and shit? Like,
No, dude, it's stable. It's just a dollar. It never moves. It's just a dollar.
Well, I find it interesting that
it's stable in its trend towards zero in purchasing power.
I find it interesting that the housing market was first propped up before the dollar was propped up. Considering what that they passed us through, that now you can use crypto to be able to for a mortgage. That's before the dollar is essentially.
Well, that's the precursor justification because they don't want to. You can't. How are you gonna buy property without KYC? If you're gonna use crypto?
I called my dad, who's been in real estate for 54 years or something like that. It's all he's ever done, and he knows absolutely nothing. And I think if anything, I just invoked a bunch of fear in him because he knows he's going to be getting all these calls now for corporate real estate, and they're going to be asking him, and he has no freaking clue about any of it. So it's I don't know. I found that super interesting, but yeah, that's
Which
disappointing.
Which a lot of opportunity for people who do know their stuff, because this is going to help the housing.
What's that, Jack?
I said this will help the housing market tremendously in the short term. So there's going to be a lot of use for the knowledge that people like us have in crypto itself, and now into these areas where crypto is going to creep. So keep paying attention, keep learning, because lots of opportunities are opening up.
I might hit up a real estate company and see if they need a crypto person to help qualify people for mortgages. There might be opportunity there.
Exactly.
Yeah,
as like a side gig.
Yeah, I'm interested in seeing like what Steve, like, you know, what he's gonna conjure up, right? Because like that's his game too. So, you know, I wonder.
Calling it now, DeOrganized real estate.
That's how, fellas.
Dude, make it an Airbnb style service with crypto.
We'll get crypto dude to airdrop houses. It'll be awesome.
That's what I was exactly about to say.
You get a house. You get a house. You get a house. Everybody gets a house.
I think we used BoostX to boost people for houses. Yes, and now crypto dude is now the Oprah of stacks. Let's go.
So the referral system and the sponsor system can help microfund people's. So like we could all, once BoostX is updated to V2, we're all going to be able to set our sponsors, and so basically we could all go in and boost stuff on the casual, boosting, you know, whatever content creator, and then also concurrently microfund specific things. So we could all like come together around an idea, go in there and update our options, and then, you know, keep that option for like say a couple weeks or something, and then, you know, everybody, you know, it's kind of commits to doing specific amount of boosts, and then that's going to generate a specific amount of capital, you know, tangentially, so to speak, through the sponsors. So basically the sponsors and referral system is going to be pretty cool for being able to support people and signal supports for people, because that's what we need more of. We need to be able to discern good ideas and help get behind them faster. Like yeah, Rosar's been in here this whole time quite as fuck, but you know, we should all be signaling the shit out of support behind him, because this guy's a fucking madman with a.
I'm listening.
He's all, what's that my name? He's all, what's that my name is? My name is.
No, I'm just. You guys are just, you know, nerding out on finance and stuff that, you know, it's not necessarily my strong suits. I'm just listening.
You're all politics. I don't want to touch that.
Rosar sits over there like vibe coding, right? And he's like, "Yeah, politics. I'm gonna sit this one out, but I'm here, dude."
Yeah, I'm juggling. I'm task mastering 2 Claude instances. I'm jumping back and forth. I'm listening.
See, this is what I'm talking about. We should be able to like signal support for Rosar directly with boosts and also indirectly with sponsors while we're boosting other people.
Yeah.
Need Oracle. All right. Need Oracle for credit worthiness to feed mortgage lending contract.
Yeah. No, and that's just the thing. Like, that's what you're going to see more of in DeFi in general, is like your lending and borrowing history being made available, right? And that's good. You know, that'll all wind up on Oracles. That Oracle might already be under development,
or it's just going to be Chainlink.
Yeah, Chainlink is you know, or Pith, or you know, one of those things. But yeah,
probably an aggregated score from multiple.
Yeah, it might pull from Zero Authority's reputation system. It might pull from the loans that you've taken out on Zest. Who knows? Maybe there's a new Oracle that's developed for it, right?
Yeah, it most definitely should do an aggregation of not just one specific, because it's kind of missing the forest for the trees there. It should take your personal history into account and kind of have different weights behind each different types of transactions, so to speak.
I agree. Well, fellas, we are about that hour-and-a-half mark. I think this has been a very base conversation. Your boy got to eat something. I ain't ate nothing all day. So, is there anything else that maybe we went around the room? Maybe we can go around the room and just do some final thoughts. Jack, you got anything to add to the conversation? Any final thoughts on any final frequencies that you want to, touch on? Anything that we talked about?
If you're in the ecosystem and you haven't voted for SIP 31 yet, make sure you do that. Either way. Because we're sitting here bitching about the government, and we're also in tandem, like talking about decentralized governance and helping to shape that in real time. So participate in decentralized governance and help us make a better future, right? So make sure you do that. But other than that, I'm good.
Huge. Shiflet, have you voted for SIP 31? Any final frequencies? Any final thoughts?
I did vote for the SIP 31, and it was very easy. And then I saw the voting period ended on July 9th, and it's, I think I said this in the chat, but it's like, it's like that 3 o'clock feeling, and you're waiting for 5 o'clock to come around. Like July 9th, I feel like is going to take a really freaking long time to show up just because of the anticipation. I want that vote to close. I want SIP 31 to pass. I want to get all these appointment boards and treasury boards selected, start getting some development, start getting some advertising rolling, and let's send stacks like everywhere. I want it in the consciousness of the masses. I want it to flip all these different ecosystems. We have the fundamentals. We just need the liquidity. Go ahead.
If you think about it, I mean, we can kind of assume it's going to pass based on maybe early voting, and there's nothing really stopping people from like starting to plan. And you know, when July 9th hits, just like having a being ready almost to make the decisions.
Right. Not just the anticipation. It's almost like it's Christmas is coming, and you're like, all right, like I know Christmas is on this day. I want these things for Christmas, but I have to wait till Christmas before I find out.
And there's also 82 million STX locked into stacking DAO. So don't forget to go vote if you have STSDX or STSDX BTC on stacking DAO. Even if you have it supplied on Zest, you can still go to stackingdao.com and make your vote heard. So we will be voting as a DAO. So the majority will be, the way that we cast the vote. That's how they're doing it. So yeah, don't forget to go over there and cast your vote if you're in liquid stacking tokens. Rosar, did you have anything else to like add to the conversation?
Sure. Yeah. I had a little funny thing I've been working on over the last day or so, which I discovered. It's like vibe coding related. So, I've started maintaining these little like script folders of just like little JavaScript code that the AI can like run as like a one-off thing. Because a lot of the time it would like try and build like API endpoints. I feel like if I'm getting too technical, just tell me to slow down. But point is, I've now taught it to like build and call these things when it needs them. So basically, if it's like confused about something, like say it's like, I don't know what code is on chain. I can't figure out how to do this. What it'll do is it'll like write some code to basically call the contract, and then it'll call it, look at the results, and be like, okay, I know what this is now, and then like change it to game plan. And
you made the AI smarter whenever it's trying to build in Clarity.
Yeah, I mean, it's not always good at knowing when it needs to explore, but that's what I'm working on now, is trying to like train it with like instructions being like, if you're confused, write a script, explore the data, discover something, and then change your game plan. It's like a higher level heuristic or something, but so far it's worked really well. But it gets confused a little bit. So sometimes it makes a bug when writing the script, and then it starts to stumble on stuff. But if I can iron this out, it's very MCV or like MCP like, where it's like it can kind of just look at data and decide what to do. But
so does it make it easier for newer people that are green to Clarity to build with it?
I think it could, yeah.
So it's a very useful tool that you're building then. Yeah,
because then at your command, you can just like tell your AI, be like, look at this contract, and then it'll know to go to the scripts folder. And it's basically like having an MCP server set up for stacks, but you can make your own like complex stuff, and you don't have to worry about, all the
so
you can build like higher level abstractions. Like you could build like something that, queried your own system, or like did a data migration, or, validated some sort of debug, validated some data in your database or something. Like you can build anything to do these sort of advanced one-off ops. So like a make file or like a task runner, but like for AI. It's cool. I don't know. There's something there.
I think so too. I think that's badass, and I've been wondering what you've been working on since you got the APIs, the price data, and then like, you got the Charisma decks, like you got the yield farming back up on Charisma.
Oh yeah. The yield farming was the big thing from yesterday. That's what I was working on a lot yesterday.
Oh yeah, yield farming.
The yield farming it's so annoying. It's like one of the more complicated things to build, because I have to build all these like pretty accurate. So I think the main reason is the Charisma yield farming is like the most complicated, aggressive, ambitious thing ever, because you can farm every block, like every fast block, you can collect new farm rewards. So if I'm
You need your own episode, is what you're telling me. It's like
I'm just saying it's
let's
like a
dive
lot of real time data, and Stacks is just not really fast enough to keep up with like how fast things are happening. Because like
Yeah.
blocks are changing every few seconds, but I can't hit the chain and get like recent results. There's like a caching period, and well, yeah, it's complicated. But I think I did a pretty good job, so you can check it out if you want.
Oh yeah, definitely gonna do that. Is it on one of your posts? Where do they follow?
Yeah. Just go to invest.charisma.rocks/energy, and it's like the energy yield farming stuff.
There we go. I'm definitely trying to check that out. I'm definitely gonna be shilling for it because I'm excited. And then you're gonna tell me how MemoBots fit into this because we have.
Dude, MemoBots is fully integrated into it. It's like you can track how many MemoBots you're holding. It's all on the energy like on the farming dashboard. Like you can see all your MemoBots when you're holding, how much extra energy capacity that gives you. It's fully integrated.
God
like on the UI. So yeah.
You said Kevin ain't eating tonight.
Here, let me just show you. I'll just show you guys. It's right here.
Yo, pull it up, bro.
All right.
Just pull it up.
All right, so you got your NFT bonuses tab here. So you got your MemoBot collection. Each one increases capacity.
Yo,
You get all the breakdown.
this shit's sick.
Yeah. And then here you can so like here's my current balance. And so I can let's get some approve. Has Leather been doing this to anyone else recently where like half the time it just fails?
Yep.
Okay. All right, yeah, boom. 1,000 energy. So now I'm up to my 1,450.
And it's not even like it's Leather and experts. It's like the wallets, period.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay. So just so everyone knows, this is how farming works on Charisma. You have for every token, there's like different tokens that you can hold that give you like persistent energy that generates every block. And so they're dexterity, charismatic flow, and this POV one. I think it's like a hoot, charisma mix or something. But the longer you hold them, you get energy at a certain rate. Like the more you hold, the more you get. And you can see like the number incrementing here. I'm actually going to, this is supposed to increment 2, but whatever. It was on local dev, not here. All right, so at any point you can just like click it and you'll get to withdraw the energy. But if you're at your max, you get 0. You can't exceed your maximum, and your maximum is determined by the amount of, it's like 100 is the baseline, but then the more MemoBots you have more. So then at any point, yeah, so once you hit the max, you need to burn your energy and get rewards because you can't have any more. And so this is my way to like basically like encourage engagement. So it's not just like set and forget farming. You got to kind of periodically come in here and like spend your energy to get the reward tokens. So you do that.
This became the most integrated fucking
Boom.
collection.
Yeah, it's like the most utility focused NFT ever now.
Holy shit, dude.
Yeah, so then I burned 1,000, so I got 1,000 hoot tokens, and then my energy, my capacity goes down. And I'll click this again. So you see I just did this one. So this is like literally 30 seconds later. Let's see how much energy I accumulated. Like energy accumulates really, really fast. Basically, yeah, like I already have 1,000 energy. So this thing's gonna fill up all the way again. Oh no, it said 1,000 was wrong. I went from 33 to 78, which seems more accurate. It's probably just a UI bug. But yeah, so then like I got more. I can burn more again.
Sick.
And then get more hoot tokens. Like I think we have like 10% of like the total supply of hoot in here. So there's like a lot of hoot. And basically you can just be doing this forever if you wanted. Just claiming as many tokens as you want. Yeah. Okay, I had 330.
My bonus capacity is plus 2,850.
Yeah, that's probably number 1. That's the highest energy holder.
Yeah, it's fucking crazy, dude.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah. So like I was saying, like some of this stuff is kind of out of sync. It could be a little smoother, better. I'll work on that. But generally, okay, yeah, it updated.
Badass, dude. Yes, a Rosar episode next Wednesday. Forget about it. Rosar episodes happen when he's not a scheduled type dude, bro. He just really isn't Pete Klein. He comes on and does his thing whenever he's got something to build. He's like, yo, we're doing an episode. And I'm like, okay, let's do it. That's the DeOrganized Media, man.
Bam. Yeah, so you can just do this forever. But we're gonna add more rewards. Like, remember back in the day, we had like you could spend energy to get like NFTs, to mint NFTs.
Yep.
So the idea is you can spend energy to do anything, and like it's a whole like reward marketplace rather than like a single reward. So there will be more rewards other than Hoot coming soon.
Cool.
But until then, just come get some Hoot. Come claim some.
You've got an infrastructure here to do all kind of cool gaming stuff,
right?
And
When Crystal's added to this?
Crystals has been actually. Let's look at how's Crystals been doing lately. I feel like I've been airdropping a lot of people crystals with the new system, and it's been causing
What do people
price to
sell
go
it? Oh, go up or go down?
up. I don't think anyone knows to even have it, nor how to sell it.
Good. That's good.
Oh no, Crystals is back down. Someone did find out how to sell it, but I see my LP tokens are going up, which is cool somehow. I guess people are buying them.
Nice. Yeah, I space drop crystals to people regularly. So
Yeah. I like giving out crystals. It's just funny.
It is, dude. Did you not know the market cap is 6 trillion? Let's go.
I don't know if it's 6 trillion anymore. I think people caught on. but let's see what it actually is. This new pricing system is actually pretty nice.
Dude, the whole UI is sick.
It's smooth. It's and it uses a pretty good algorithm for scoring. Like, it's pretty robust.
Your front end work is like impeccable. Like, I learned about that when we were working on memo bots.
Where is it?
Memo bots on Emma.io.
Hang on, let me go back to. Actually, yeah, let's go here. Where are you, crystals? Here we are. All right, yeah. So this one, it does pool breakdowns. You can see like all the pools and how they contribute to the price. And I have this why this price section to make it like easy.
Nice.
So what is
sexy,
it?
Dude.
What's
Sexy
the market cap of crystals?
I like the breakdown of why.
Yeah. Like for complicated ones, like let's look at Charisma. Very complicated because it has so many pools. So, all right. So apparently for Charisma token, it actually goes through Pepe as its strongest liquidity path, which is interesting. And that's just because, so we share FactFun and Charisma share pools now, because we're using the same protocol for them. And so like Cha Pepe, or sorry, what is it? There's always been a Cha Pepe pool because like Mark and the whole Pepe gang were very early to like load some liquidity in. And that was one of the ones that didn't get taken other than Ruin Welsh. So they've hung around, and their pool is large. But there's Rafa added a Bitcoin Pepe pool, which is quite large. And this is like my pricing system is all like Bitcoin anchored. Like we use the Bitcoin price as like the source of truth. And then all our prices are like based on how much SBTC pairs they have, not Stacks pairs. So it's like a BTC centric pricing system, which I think makes more sense. So because Pepe is the biggest piece between Cha and BTC, that's how the price is determined. And then, so it does that. And then there's also like alternative paths, which it uses, or it can use.
Let's see the pie graph. Yeah, there's a pie graph. Let's see that. Nice.
Yeah, these are the pool sizes. So like DMG is like half the liquidity is paired up with the governance token. And then Shark is the next biggest pool.
Nice. This is cool.
Shout out Mooning Shark.
Yeah.
His name, his BNS is going to be included in the block web. Big shout out to Reese.
Hey. All right, that's enough of this. Also, yeah, no, that's it. That's enough for now. No more alphas.
Oh, no more alphas? Oh
no, alpha cut off. Sorry.
No more alphas. But can I just do a
Joe's
little
over.
like applaud for you, dude? Like here.
Hey.
Dude, sick. Bullish and a Rosar episode is like, we need a Rosar episode once a week because of how fast you build. Seriously, it's like fucking insane. It's like, hey, I got price data today. Hey, did you know that you decks like our liquidity pools are back open. Did you know that it's like, get the fuck out of
That's
here.
kind of one thing I've realized over the last few months is that like when something happens, like for instance, Kraken, he's kind of gone MIA recently, and his price API has been like, I haven't been able to use it because it says now there's like a billing required or something. I don't know what happened, but he might have made some sort of change and then has not come back online. But like I was trying to work around that for like days, adding like all these little features to like fail over to other things. And like this has happened before where like something comes up and I have to like add all these band-aids to fix it. And then I've realized like with AI, I can just build like stuff in like hours, like I'll just build my own pricing API, like
and then you just parse it and
4
then
hours
to your AI, and then boom, you can rebuild over and over and over again.
Yeah, like the speed of just building entire pieces of infrastructure the bar is so much lower. So it's like you don't need anything anymore. You can just build everything you want yourself. It's like a different, I don't know. You have to.
And you also don't have to wait 15 minutes or to 45 minutes to test a transaction either. So you can you can literally build at the speed of light.
Yeah.
Is what it
feels like another thing was like Stacks Tools had some like sort of inconsistent and slow price updates, and like sometimes there was like glitches. And for a while I was adding all these like workarounds and like defensive code and like my system to sort of smooth them out. But then I was like, wait, I can just build my own price API. Sure. Yeah.
Badass, dude. Badass.
And at first you'd think like one would be harder than the other, but with AI, it's actually it's like the reverse. Like building new stuff is easier than fixing bugs. So
yeah, dude. Pete Klein said, Rosar, are you like using 2 instances of Claude to like cheer on what you do in the first form, a second persona in the second? Like, yeah, you should, bro, because this is basic stuff.
Dude,
I do use 2.
One's giving you a shoulder rub, like,
One is like
grade 1 to quality, sure.
The main thing I'm doing, and then the other one is just like those little things that like you normally are like, nah, I'll do that later, or I don't have time for it, or it's like, it's not important enough. Like he just does like the little odd job tasks where it's like, I just like notice something while I'm like doing some bigger task, and I don't want to like stop like the progress, but I just notice it, and the other one will like pick up do a little cleanup work here and there.
So it's no longer a swarm, it's a duo.
Yeah, it's like a senior dev, junior dev combo. I'm the product manager or lead dev. I don't know.
You're like all
I still write code, guys. I still write code. I'm not out of the job yet.
Crypto dude, I heard you chiming in, bro. What's up?
I was just gonna say, we're gonna be implementing and leveraging Rosar's price API for BoostX on the modals for giving people insight on the exchange rates.
Yeah.
So,
is it client side or server side?
You're talking about how we're implementing.
Oh, it's on the BoostX thing, right? On the extension.
Yeah, we're gonna implement some get calls to your API to basically upon the user selected.
Get some price data.
Yeah, if you
data relative.
Yeah. So if you want to use the price API, like the REST API, you can use that client or server side. But if you want, I have a React hook, like a context provider hook that does like you can subscribe to prices and balances, so you can see.
About like for WebSockets or something.
Yeah, it's like a WebSocket subscription. So you just like use Blaze, and then you'll get like a stream of prices. So anytime they update, you'll get like a real-time update. And that just uses the price API under the hood, but it also pulls in Stacks Tools prices. So
yeah, I'm not sure exactly which way it would be. I mean, probably
one's easier.
The other one would probably be a lot easier on me because then I don't have to spin up my own infrastructure to basically replicate your data to the users.
Yeah. Like there are 2 options available. REST is obviously more straightforward and easy and works in all environments. So
I love when the conversation just starts going over my head and I'm trying to like grasp it. I'm like, come back here for a second because I'm not a dev. And I capture like little pieces of it. And I'm like, oh, like, okay, I know what they're talking about. Like, yeah, okay.
Patrick from SpongeBob once said, firmly grasp it.
firmly grasp it. Like, yeah, dude, he did. Thank you, shit. Thank you, bro. Oh shit. I have too much fun with y'all. I have to go eat.
All right.
I have to go eat. Crypto dude. You know, I pitched to Rosar. I didn't know he was so based tonight. Didn't foresee like the whole like demo, like the fast, quick, like no, yeah, memo bots have a use case. Did you not know? You're not in the know. Let me let you know.
Memo bots are goated utility NFTs and goated art.
And goated art, dude. A major collab from two titans within the Stacks ecosystem.
Yeah. And there's the most epic dramatic story associated with them too.
It is, dude.
With everything that went on, it was just, yeah. There's deep lore. There's deep lore associated with these NFTs.
Yeah, there's going to be a whole comic related to, yeah, memo bots. Like, yeah, it's coming. The lore is going to be told within the Gigaverse. It cannot not. Like, this is the, yeah, okay, redemption art.
The story must be told.
Yes. Yes, it is. Like, I'm the arbiter. I am here to tell the story. Crypto dude, I want to give you a moment. Any final thoughts? Any final frequencies? Shameless shows? Like, what's going on, bro? I know we've been building.
I'll do a shameless shill and then a final thought. So obviously get Boost X. Who would have guessed I would have said that? So the referral system we're bringing is coming 2.0. Basically, the sponsor system we're bringing is coming in 2.0. We're going to be, adding like what I just mentioned, kind of exchange rates to the modal, so users have a little more insight on how much the the fungible token's worth that you're transferring. Get a little more insight there. We're going to be bringing multiple updates to the BNS profile pages, or to profile pages that have BNS names rather. So like BNS badge, rocket button right there on the profile page. Also BNS searching in your browser, in your Omni search field, more integration and deeper integration with featured profile pages, like Skullcoin's profile page, GP's profile page for minting is, NFTs for the Giga Pepeverse, Nakamoto One's treasure chest, deeper integrations in the profile pages. Also, during the 2.0 era, we're going to be deploying the BoostX Cryptonauts NFT contract with the help of GPSC for the art. And, basically we got quite a few things coming in 2.0. There's obviously going to be more coming after that. That are, going to be updates, but I'll talk about those at another time. The final thought here, I guess, would be, stay diligent and, stay aware of what's going on out there. There is tons of opportunities, but there's also things that we need to stay on top of, like, the Genius Act, for example. We should most definitely be keeping our eyes and ears out for potential undermining of all our work through, legislative acts and or bad actors. There's obviously different attack vectors, but my point is, stay vigilant, and also, first how's that saying go? First they ignore you, then they laugh at you, and then then they fight you, and then you win. So basically, we already passed the first two. We're in the fight you stage, and then we win. So right now, it's basically a race to get point of sale terminals. It really feels like it's a race to basically for who can basically upgrade the merchant infrastructure first, basically.
Come on, Dan. Come on, Stacks Pay. Let's fucking go.
Yeah, that would be a huge thing in terms of helping to facilitate that, because then we could, do fully encoded, transaction data into QR codes on a standardized method. So we can make it to where we can do point of sale terminal transactions via QR codes and or NFC tapping. So I'll leave it at that. Just keep building the change.
I appreciate you, dude. Like, thank you for being a voice and like a voice of reason within my corner. I appreciate the fuck out of you. Like, I don't say that with a light statement. That I needed to be educated, and we did a fair share of that tonight. So I know what I'm doing, and I know what type of posts I'm gonna make. So I appreciate you, seriously, and all the base building that you're doing for this ecosystem. You continue to show up and show out and let us know exactly what we should be fighting for. Um, that is decentralization. So, thank you, dude. Seriously.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for having me on here and always being a great host.
Of course, man. Anytime. Shift. Last but not least, Shift. Do we have any final thoughts? Any closing frequencies? Any vibes that you want to put out there? Closing statements.
The trend is our friend. Try to reduce the amount of emotion in life and try to find the signal, because if people are trying to inject emotion, they're probably trying to inject noise. The signal is in what's the action, not the words. So pay attention to what they do, not what they say, and stay humble and stay on the mission.
The grind is real. It's prime time, grind time, and the time to get loud is now. Thank you, fellas. I hope that you have a blessed rest of your hump day. We finished strong today. Can you say the same? If you're in the audience, right? You showed up and you showed out, so yes, you can. You guys have a blessed night, and we'll do it again tomorrow.
All right, later.
Good night.
Later, guys. And this has been a based episode of DeOrganized Nightly, where we get your favorite Giga Brain Astronaut Scholars into the same room, discuss the genius trap, other things like Bitcoin news, world news, alpha fresh and hot off the presses, including demos of Charisma. Be sure to follow Charisma BTC on X, along with BoostX_app. I'm your boy GP with DeOrganized Media. Be sure to tune in to the Let's Go Morning Show at 8:30 a.m. ET Monday through Friday, along with the DeOrganized Nightly segment at 7 p.m. ET every single day, Monday through Friday, like I said. Go to DeOrganized.media to set up your profile today and start earning some dApps. Yeah, and go visit that show schedule. It's a base show schedule that shows you all of the spaces and podcasts within the Stacks and broader Bitcoin ecosystem. You guys have a blessed rest of your night. Keep high frequency vibes and keep love in the room. Guys, where we're headed, we are so early it hurts, and we need shades because our future is so bright. I'll catch you on the flip side. Peace.